Now, I say, I have difficulty to show why I feel that this step is quite an almost impossible step. The gap to be bridged is so wide, from 2 to 3, from warning cry to description.
Yes.
Now, what is here really the point? The point is that we moved from something instinctive, which is still present when I speak with my hands, from something instinctive to something deliberate, something full of thought, something foreseeing, and to a state that is very important, where it is possible to lie. That is one of the interesting questions. We can say that a dancing bee indicating where the food is to the other bees, a dancing bee cannot lie. It can err, but it cannot lie. It can be misled by a scientist who is building up a whole apparatus to mislead the bee, but it cannot lie. We come to a place where we have the freedom to speak the truth or to tell a story which isn't true.
Yes, yes.
All that, I think, constitutes a very wide gap to be bridged in the evolution from warning cries to storytelling.
Yes.
Now, descriptive talk is not a perfected warning cry. That is one way to see it.
Yes.
By better and better and better warning cries, we never get away from a situation where there happens something, we react to it instinctively with the warning cry.
Yes.
That can reach all perfection, and it never gets to the relaxed telling of a story, perhaps lying, perhaps true. A new machinery in the brain is needed for this new step.
Yes.
And why is it needed? I have tried now to explain as good as I can. It isn't very good, by showing that it cannot be a process of perfection of a machinery which is already here. Yes, in my opinion, specifically human language fulfills an entirely new function, and for this new function, a new brain machinery is required.
I think that shows very fine insight into the real basis of hominid evolution of the brain. It was not just the increase of the chimpanzee to the human of about 3.5 times bigger. More chimpanzee brain, it doesn't give you the opportunity for human speech. It only gives you more chimpanzee. It has to be something new came into the brain, a new development of the brain. And this development came in certain areas can be seen where language came, but also music and spatial relations. But more importantly, the frontal areas, here in the front of our brain. This is the really big human development, where you get all of the highest performances, the memories, the ideals, the creativity, the imagination, all of these great human qualities, which are all linguistic. They're all based upon language.
Young mammals learn by a kind of wild imitation of the old. I mean, I always like, especially young cats, when they rush about like wild and eat everything which they can get their teeth in, bite. That is all a kind of imitation of the more understandable behavior of the old cats. And it does these things in preparation for functions in, let us say, in the real life which comes later to the cat.
Yes.
And we can say that the same thing is characteristic of children. Now, I would propose that in play, let us say, play acting of the children, they use the warning cries in a playful way. And this is already removed from the instinctive use of the warning cry in the situation to which the warning cry fits, in the fitting situation. Let us take the cry wolf. The children would try to threaten each other with the cry wolf, and would set up a play where they would play as being afraid of the wolf.
Yes.
Who is afraid of the big bad wolf?
Yes.
That is the game which the children play, and the cry wolf would play a role as a warning cry in that game. Now, this children's game, in a certain way, has already all those difficult properties which the descriptive language has compared with the
signaling language,
signal function language. It is not something which refers to a real situation now, but only to an imagined situation which can just as well be played 5 minutes later or an hour later, and so on. It isn't really released by a real situation, but it is released by an imagined situation, and it has actually to do something even quite unconscious yet with planning, namely it is planning for the later serious wolf situation.
Can I break in for a moment? I think that what you're trying to say is this is a dramatic performance. It is a simple drama. Yeah. And in fact, in all drama, we're doing just that.
All
drama is putting on a description of something that did happen in the past that can be useful in the future, but full of meaning for us now.
Exactly, that is what I mean.
Yes.
There is something in our stage 3, in the descriptive language, which is similar to signal language as drama is related to the real drama of life.
Yes. The hazards of life.
So my hypothesis, of course, unfortunately untestable hypothesis, my hypothesis is that through children's playing was really, of course, slowly the transition made from the mere signal function of language to, let us say, the dramatic function of language, and through the dramatic function of language then we come to this, let us say, somewhat unreal way in which we may talk over the coffee table, or in this case a work table, which we can speak theoretical and perhaps quite relaxed about the gravest dangers in the world.
I think there is testing possible, because we have to always think that language came to each one of us, to each child, in a somewhat analogous way to the evolution of language in hominid evolution. Each child we can study, how did they learn to use language in a descriptive manner from just a signaling manner? Because a baby uses language only for signaling and for expression. And a child begins to use language for description and question. Yeah. And so I think you could study in detail that scientifically, the whole procedures of children. I'm sure that it's an important challenge.
Of course, we are all selves, and we all know what that means. But the baby isn't born as a self. Of course, it needs a long period for, let us say, waking up fully. And in this waking up process, as we have already said, both walking and language especially plays a very great role. Especially language for the consciousness that it is a self comes to the baby more or less at the same time when it begins to refer to itself by speaking of itself as I.
Yes.
And only then has he realized that others are selves and that it is a self. This realization is obviously very closely connected.
The point is, it asks so many questions. It asks about its immediate happenings, the surrounds and the others, and so on. So this is the baby establishing itself as a self through language, question and description and argument.
Of course, especially with the asking of a question, it is clear that very much depends on the way in which it is loved, taken seriously, in which its questions are taken seriously and are answered in a way in which the child can feel that its question has been answered. And that is often a great task for the family, a very great difficulty, because the questions aren't easily answered. Questions go to the very bottom of the structure of our world.